Peace and blessings, family. This is your brother, Asar Imhotep, with the Madhu Mandela Institute for the Advancement of Science and Culture. I want to welcome everyone to another Conversations with Brother Asar. And today is, what is today? Wednesday, July the 15th of 2020. And, you know, we are still in the COVID universe and still trying to navigate and figure out our next steps. In the meantime, it has provided us with a lot of time for self-reflection, reading and developing new skills and insights about life, and enough time to kind of chart new directions and things. So I hope that you are taking this time of self-quarantine for those who are still in quarantine to look into the future and to chart a course towards your destiny. So want to say big ups, respect, and thank you all who have joined us live, and those, of course, who will view us later in the archives. And today is a little different than what many people may normally associate with in terms of topics on this program, but hopefully you will see that this is still in alignment with many of the themes that we discuss here on the show. And so today's conversation is on the Will and Jada situation that has been in the news. If you have not been under a rock for the past 5 days, maybe I should actually say 2 weeks or so. And so we know Sister Jada Pinkett is the wife of our good brother Will Smith. And they have been married approximately 25 years as of now. Sister Jada has a show on Facebook called The Red Table Talk. And so within that context, this conversation is titled, Where is the Love? African-American Love on the Red Table. So if you have not been under a rock as of late, you know that there has been some controversy, I should say, to be frank, concerning the relationship between, Will and Jada. There's been a third party by the name of August Alsina, a younger, I shouldn't say a young, he's 28 years of age right now, but he's a lot younger than me. So a younger, R&B singer out of New Orleans, who has been welcomed in the home of the Smiths family, and had been, quote unquote, entangled in a relationship with the wife of Will Smith, Jada Pinkett-Smith. And, this has been the buzz all throughout the net. My timeline will not be quiet. It's only today that my timeline has kind of shifted in terms of news, so to speak. And that is with the comments made by our good brother, Nick Cannon, regarding the Jews. So we may address that and, what he should have done and what he should have said, to where, he can still, keep his assets and his things in terms of the mainstream and still get the point across. But that's another conversation for another time. I want to welcome everyone to the to the conversations, and especially in the chat and on YouTube and on Facebook. So peace Zane, peace Pure Black, peace Anthony Osborne, peace Philly Chew, Jeremy Kador, BK Soul Farm, and I think just Pure Black came back again. So peace and blessings. And so Pure Black asked the question, Asar on the ratchet ish? No, I'm not on the ratchet. Even though I still got hood tendencies, I can't say that I something won't slip, but it's going to be in a different kind of light. So we're going to kind of analyze these things. And so, the first part of the title is Where is the Love? And this is important for the simple fact that this is a text that I wrote way back, actually in 2013, but in 2015, I released a hardback. It's titled, Where is the Love? How Language Can Reorient Us Back to Love's Purpose. And so this was the beginning of a series of texts that I'm still in the midst of writing. And so when it came to, how should I say, looking at ways that African people can improve upon ourselves and get ourselves out of the current condition, one of the first things I looked at was African relations. How are we relating to one another? And what is the overall impact of our relationships? And, there were some other questions that were asked, some linguistic and some just cultural, from a variety of different motivations. And so, this notion of Black relationships has been an interest of mine, a study of mine for a number of years. And so when there are opportunities for us to discuss these things and to kind of reiterate the importance of Black love and the stumbling blocks that keep us away from those types of unions, we had these discussions. Matter of fact, when the Red Table Talk happened, we had as our guest on the show in Washa and Moncho, Edu from the Acoma House Initiative. And they are a couple out of Jersey who have been counseling. They've been married, I think close to 20 years themselves. And so they've had a number of controversies, including infidelity, actually before they even got, no, I think they were officially married in a legal sense, but before they actually had their wedding. And, and so, the trials and tribulations started off, but they've advanced in their relationship, that they could be of service to others. So they went, got educated and, certified in certain areas. Now they help couples in their marriages and their relationships. So we had them on that same day, that same Friday as it on. So, keeping this in context, we're keeping the conversation going on the stuff that we discussed there. And they have a few books, but their main book that, starts off their series of texts is a Coma Day, a guidebook into sacred science of soulmating, a cultural alternative to Valentine's Day. And so, we had a winner, Shawnee, who won a copy of this book on Friday. And so I want y'all to keep this conversation in context to the Where is the Love text that was published in 2015 and the conversation that we just had with Nwasha and Moncho Edu on our YouTube and Facebook channels. And so hold on one sec. And thank you to Pure Black and to Zane Montego. So we got one of the things that I noted in the Where is the Love text is the relationship between relationships and economics. Now, many of you may know, and I'll take this as an opportunity to plug this, that I was in a film called Hoppy, and the role of economics in the development of civilization is the subtitle of it. And so Hoppy is the name of the Nile River according to the ancient Egyptians, and the whole thing is dealing with the economic piece. So what can we learn from ancient Egypt and other riverine systems that we can emulate in the modern times to increase our chances of not only surviving but thriving and creating our own economic system. So I was lucky to be a part of that film. However, my role wasn't necessarily to discuss that aspect of it, although I did in some parts, but it didn't make it in the film since I was sought after for the linguistic analysis. But some of that, what I talked about in the initial interview of the film is relevant to what we're talking about now. And so, there's going to be a showing of the film this coming Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And you have to go to hoppyfilm.com and look and purchase your ticket for the household. Now, this is not going to be like you purchase a ticket and then you're able to see the show anytime that you want. The show starts at 7 p.m. And so you'll have to be in front of your computer or smart TV in order to view the film. So, after this conversation or even during this conversation, head to hoppyfilm.com, support Brother Taki and Sister Felicia and Brother Seed and all of the people who were in the film. It is a very good film, and it is definitely a conversation starter. So check that out. So there's context for the situation that we're finding, or the conversation that we're going to find ourselves in today. So basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to analyze. I'm going to give my analysis of the interview that was on the Red Table Talk, and we'll probably have some commentary or questions. And I want to see where y'all are at and what your opinions, and hopefully we can tie these things in. But before I go there, I want to kind of make this particular point. And so this citation that kind of explains everything. This is coming from Dr. Amos Wilson and his text, The Falsification of African Consciousness. And he talks about something that is very vital to this conversation that we're having here now. And so on page 45 of the text, he states, or he asks, why do we suffer from this problem then? Why is it the Black personality created? I try to get across the fact that every maladjusted characteristic in the Black personality serves an economic function. Each maladjustive characteristic is not there by accident. It's not there simply because Europeans hate us. It's there because it maintains their economic dominance. If I've got money, I can help you. But if I distrust you, I won't help you. And you may not make it. It's not the absence of money, it's the presence of mistrust. If I will not cooperate, if you cannot rely on me, then we cannot have an economic system, even though we may have money. In other words, a people must trust, be reliable, be dependable, have respect for each other if they are to develop a viable economic system. When they have those kinds of relationships, they have a social system and they can build and they can grow economically. So if you understand that what he's underlying saying right here in terms of, in order for us to have a strong economic system, we must trust one another. And so when it comes to why do African Americans not trust one another, we have to go back to our personal relationships. How is our family life? Why don't we trust our parents and uncles in things, and our boyfriends and our girlfriends? What is the long-term impact of our mistrust for one another? What are those things that cause mistrust in our interpersonal relationships? Like things like drug use, things like abandonment, things like, not accepting responsibility for hurts and actions and things of that nature. And of course, in a marriage, or even just a boyfriend girlfriend situation, infidelity in things. When we can't get our family situation right, we can't get our community situation right. And if we don't trust people in our own family, it's going to be hard for us to trust people outside of our family. And so what this conversation forces us to realize is that, our lack of an economic system is predicated on our inability to have strong family relationships. And this is something that is very serious. And so I didn't want to come on to have the conversation and to be in like the slander that everyone else is in, concerning this couple, regardless if, Will Smith and Jada Pinkett-Smith are millionaires, they're still human beings and they're still part of our African family. And so, having a conversation about what's going on there is necessary. And anybody, even if they weren't necessarily famous, if the word got out about a particular situation, we got to understand that this affects us all, because with especially young people who are coming up and they're looking for models. So when you're a young person and you're looking for models of love and relationship, the first place that you're going to look is your immediate family. The second place you're going to look at is like films and music. And then the greater society, saying in large, what are you seeing in your community? But the movies and film and the music you listen to, helps to shape your ideas and your value system regarding relationships. So think about what is going on in R&B today, where no one's really talking about love and staying together. It's only about the hit it and quit it. I ain't like her, or I'm a cheat, da 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 da. What kind of effect does that have on the psyche of young people coming up? And so when we have divorce rates now in the United States up to 72%, and where we have statistics in terms of infidelity going for men 57% and for women 53%, as if that's really a large difference between the two, that we can't even stay committed to each other in that sense. This is a big problem for us. And so by analyzing the situation and what's going on in this as a case study, we get to reflect on our own lives and what we can do to ensure that, you know, our intimate relationships are more powerful, and that we have the long term goal in mind, not only for our family, but for our community at large. And so within that same vein, um, you know, Amos Wilson in the previous page, you know, informs us in terms of the economic system. Again, kind of you know, this actually leads up to the next page, which is on 45. But he says, we're suffering from the absence of an economic system. Money is not a system. Money is what it is. A system involves a systematic and organized utilization of money, a systematized utilization and distribution of money. Without the pattern, without the system, without the organization, one does not have an economy. An economy exists prior to money. There were economies in the world before money was invented. We don't even have to have money to have an economized system. So ultimately, when we study an economic system, we recognize that the economic system at its base refers to the nature of the relationship between people. It's the systematic way that people choose to relate to one another that makes an economic system, not money. When we lack a systematic way of relating to each other, then we have money. We can have money and still be poor, have money and be robbed, which is what we are. So when we, again, this notion of relationships and their importance is what, you know, all of this is about in the long term. It's about creating a social system and a social economy, and one of the effects is a thriving, you know, monetary economy. And so I'm hoping that, you know, this kind of context is making sense. So, you know, please like the video, please share, and continue the conversation, of course, when this is done. And so again, this is going to be my analysis of the Red Table Talk with, you know, Sister Jada Pinkett and our good brother Will Smith. And so, you know, I'm going to have to put out here, you know, the fair use thing. And, you know, because YouTube be trying to, you know, take people's stuff down when stuff falls under, you know, fair use. And so put this up here, you know, in federal law, you know, which allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or videos, video discs under certain circumstances without the authorization of the copyright holder. And one of those things in which falls under that is criticism and analysis. So that's exactly what we're doing here today. So hopefully y'all are with me and following with me, and I'm coming through clear. So what I'm going to do is share my screen and go to, I'm going to share the Chrome tab and the Red Table Talk home. So hopefully y'all see what is going on there. So let me know if y'all are straight over there. Peace and blessings, Brother Don Williams, and Robert Rand and Tigu Evans. And so, yeah, and Tigu says that, you know, the Will and Jada situation been out for years. And so this timeline is very interesting nonetheless. But let me see if I can increase this a bit. So what I will be doing is playing a little bit, then pausing, and then giving my commentary. And so so hopefully it comes through clearly on your end.
Red Table for me, I
don't know.
Just all the stuff that's going on in the press. Mm-hmm. I felt like it was important to come to the table to really clear the air. Somebody made a statement for me that wasn't a statement I made, that went cray cray.
And one of the reasons
I don't know what's up with this.
why I wanted to come to the table is the media, the headlines. We specifically never said anything.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what's up with the playback rate, but I think it's just because when I have Facebook up at the same time as StreamYard, it just it gets a little flaky. But we start off the conversation. Of course, they're both sitting down already. There's really no introduction at all, and they don't start off the conversation by giving any context of the nature and how they got there. They start off the conversation basically saying why they're there in response to the media's and in the mainstream media, then of course the social media's response to their situation. And of course there is the other gentleman, the young guy, August Alsina, and of course he was not on the Red Table Talk at this particular time, but he went on Angela Yee's podcast and confessed that he had been in a relationship with Jada Pinkett-Smith while she is still married to Will Smith, and that he was very much in love with the woman, and then somehow they broke up, and he was very heartbroken and things of that nature. So there's been a lot of controversy, and allegedly, like, this has been known for at least a year now in the public, and both had denied it in the past. But August Alsina came clean on Angela Yee's show, and this forced them to kind of respond in kind of like a PR save to get in front of the narrative. And so this is the the bits and fragments that we're seeing right now. So let's continue.
We were purposely not saying anything. Any headline that says Jada said or Will said or the Smith said is not true. We specifically never said anything.
Right.
So coming to the table was like, we just felt like it got to the point where you got to say something.
Yeah. And to stop that cycle.
Yeah.
There's people's feelings involved.
Right.
She recognizes that there's a human element in it. She says there's people's feelings involved, but she doesn't identify, whose feelings are involved. Does it acknowledge, the pain in terms of her husband, Will Smith, who's sitting across the table from her, and you'll see a dichotomy in terms of the facial expressions between the two. And so, Jada's going to be very kind of nonchalant about her expressions and her emotions. And while Will Smith you're going to see kind of a drained face and a disappointed face and a hurt face, and a lot of people assume that he was crying. And that's a possibility, and not necessarily crying on the show, that he had been crying prior to. That's a possibility, but I would also suggest that he probably had been drinking prior to the show. And so, if you've seen a Red Table Talk, kind of recently with the family, they kind of mention his drinking. And so this may be evidence, of that drinking that was mentioned in a previous Red Table Talk. So we'll continue.
Right.
And at the end of the day, I don't like how all of this came to be. That doesn't matter. It's all love. Honestly. And I would usually not, you know, that would be something I wouldn't comment on at all.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like it's a situation that I consider private.
You just feel like it ain't really nobody's business. Yeah.
But
yeah.
I'll pause right there. It's interesting how when it comes to this aspect, you know, she talks about how she would keep this private. You know, normally she would keep this private. But, you know, why everyone is abuzz is because Jada Pinkett created this program specifically to have open discussions about their family life as a way to allow other people to kind of open up about their situations in life. And so the idea is that she is open and candid, and that, you know, they're kind of revealing all. And now we don't expect, you know, everyone to kind of reveal it all. But this is going to be important for this particular conversation, because if there's a few red talk tables, especially she had a whole red talk table dealing with infidelity. And the red talk has not been on for that long, you know, maybe 2.5 years or so, like that. And so in one of the recent, and I think it's less than a year old, she talks about that there, you know, the addictions, and there's one on addictions, and then there was one on infidelity. And, you know, she kind of admits in both that she, you know, allegedly prior to her and Will getting together, that she had a sex addiction. And I think that's going to be very important to understand in terms of the dynamic and how she responds to the young man who, you know, was welcomed into the home, who she had the affair with. And so so we'll continue here, and I'll just let it play.
But now Black Twitter has claimed it as their business.
but you know, I feel like it's healing that needs to happen. And I know there's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now.
Yeah.
Even though this is minuscule, I do feel like it's these kinds of things that create the world that we're in. And the idea of not communicating, not talking about it, not clearing the air, and just being as.
I'm gonna pause right here because it seems like Jada is trying to kind of deflect and make the situation seem minuscule. So she tries to compare her situation to what else is going on in the world, you know, in terms of, so we know the COVID-19, loss of jobs. What else is going on in the world? There's still infighting, you know, saying across the world. It's the Black Lives Matter, you know, movement and things going on. So, you know, our little, you know, relationship scafu, you know, it's minuscule in comparison to that stuff. But that's not how you should approach a situation like this, because, you know, regardless of the apparent weight and value in the rest of the world, to the gentleman who is sitting across from you, your husband, this is a very big deal. Matter of fact, all the other stuff in the world is minuscule, because this is something that they have to deal with immediately and directly. So, you know, we're going to see a pattern of the deflection And so you got to kind of pay attention to the language in which she uses throughout the conversation. And you know, you can tell that this brother, he really doesn't want to be here. They've already, you know, been through it, and they're still, you know, going through their healing process. So when, you know, August made those comments, you know, it's forcing him to relive these moments. And honestly, I think that he was aware, you know, of the affair, but to the degree of which the affair was and how many years it actually was, that I don't think he had a full knowledge in the scope of. And so, you know, we'll come to realize that, you know, there's really no nice way to say this, but Jada Pinkett lies. And so, you know, she's lied to us in the public, and we know that she's lied to Will. And, you know, you can see this in his face, like he's been dealing with this for a very, very long time. And you know, we'll probably share some video where kind of this stuff is addressed. And we got to keep in mind that for a lot of folks, they are just now kind of, you know, getting wind of this. But if you actually pay attention to a number of their videos going 2 years and back, they've in many ways kind of in code have addressed this. And so, you know, this kind of helps to explain the philosophy, you know, of the couple. And, you know, it helps to actually diffuse or eliminate some kind of rumors. Matter of fact, they've addressed the rumors before, like they were going to get a divorce, like they were swingers or had an open marriage. There's clues that you can tell here that there was no open marriage between these two. And that, of course, is internet gossip. And so we'll continue.
Transparent.
Mm-hmm.
Just being transparent.
And I'm here with you.
I thank you for that, because you've been on a hell of a journey with me. So that's what we're going to start with. This is a very personal journey.
Yeah.
That became very public.
Yes, absolutely.
For whatever reason.
So what happened, Jada?
Okay. So
hold on. And she says this is a very private matter, very personal one that became public for whatever reason, as if she doesn't know why it has become public. So we know the vehicle in which the information came out, but it's because of her using another person, misrepresenting herself with another person, you know, got him caught up in his feelings that this information came out. It's because of her. So it's going to be a common theme that she never takes responsibility at all for any of her actions in this whole ordeal. And that's problematic. And it is that kind of stuff that keeps, you know, people from staying married or even wanting to get married. And so, you know, this conversation actually is in defense of marriage. And I'll keep getting all these dang notifications need to turn off. Let me do that. Turn off notifications. There we go. Sorry, Brother Ben, you interrupting the show. All right, anyway. Hold on. So, you know, we'll continue here and we'll keep analyzing. So I apologize for the stream rate. Again, when StreamYard is on it and I'm going live, it eats up all the resources if I'm on Facebook. Now, if this was on YouTube, it wouldn't be a problem. But for some reason, Facebook and StreamYard together eats up the computer's resources.
So let's start with, I guess, about 4.5 years ago.
Yeah.
I think it was about 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Started a friendship with August.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually became really, really good friends. Mm-hmm. And it all started with him just needing some help. Mm-hmm. You know, me wanting to help his health, his mental state.
Because for me, that was the thing when Og first came around, he was really sick.
He was really, really sick. Yeah.
And the outpouring for him from our family was initially about his health.
Yeah. And I mean, we found all those different.
I'm going to pause right here. So what they said here is that the introduction to this family, which actually happened probably like at the end of 2013, 2014, was, and you'll have to kind of go to the Addictions Red Table Talk Show. I forgot what episode it is, but you know, you get some insight into how it became. So you hear on the internet, for example, that August was a friend of Jaden. That's not true. You know, with Jaden and Willow doing tours, Jada Pinkett-Smith would go on the tours with them. And so I think she's like, you know, their manager, because I think at the time they were still kind of underage. And so she's there at the concert, and August Alsine is also featured at the concert. And at the concert, you know, they spark up a conversation, and he just, you know, for some reason opens up to her and says, you know, I need, you know, help, that, you know. And so this is after a series of things. He was, you know, this is a little bit after he then passed out on stage. So there's a video clip of him passing out on stage. And matter of fact, he fell off of stage and was in a coma for 2 days and whatnot. And he was on, you know, Percocets, you know, for the pain and all of this other kind of stuff. So he was touring heavily. He wasn't eating right and the like. And this is what, you know, got him, you know, on those pills. And so by the time Jada Pinkett met him, you know, he was still, you know, he was heavy, you know, into that stuff. And he recognizes that he needs help. But instead of going to an actual professional, he opens up to Jada. And as a result, you know, Jada, you know, being the person she is, wanting to help people and, quote unquote, using her terminology, heal people, invites him into the home. So now, you know, I don't know if he actually lived at the house, but when we're talking about inviting to the home, she introduces him to the family. And so now the family, you know, because they have a history of you know, having to support people with addictions. For example, Will Smith's sister, and then of course the mother of Jada Pinkett-Smith, you know, she had her own battles. And you know, and so, you know, they have a little experience in it. And so, you know, she wanted to initially provide a support network for, you know, August to, you know, to help him to get better and things of that nature. So, you know, so they, you know, once they became friends, he became a friend to the family itself. So I know y'all see a lot of early pictures with them two together, but you know, that's within the same context. You'll see photos with Jada and him together, and Will Smith and him together, you know, at the house or just out and about and things of this nature. So he, you know, became a friend of the family. They welcomed him into the home. And so I think for Will, and I think for anybody under a situation like this is what really hurts the most, is that, you know, this individual comes in and is invited into the home. Will Smith, you know, being head of the household there, welcomes him and puts him under the protection of him in the home. And ultimately he sleeps with his wife and his wife sleeps with him. And so this is very problematic on many different levels. That's not including, I know a lot of people want to say, well, he was broken and all of this other kind of stuff. Well, you'll come to see that she's the same way. And so, kind of two birds of a feather flock together. And so, this kind of all plays out in a very unique way. So I'll continue with the screen.
Resources, to help pull them through. And from there, you and I were going through a very difficult time.
Yeah.
And we decided
I was done with your ass.
Yeah, you kicked me to the curb.
I was done with you.
Yeah.
Marriages have that, though. Marriages have that.
Yeah, we basically we broke up.
We decided that we were going to separate for a period of time, and you go figure out how to make yourself happy, and I'll figure out how to make myself happy.
Well, at that particular,
this is very critical to understand if you were able to catch it. They had been going through a rocky period in the relationship, and it got to a boiling point where Will Smith was about to end it. And this is a very big deal, especially when you consider that for him, you would hear him say all the time that divorce is not an option, but he was seriously considering that, that may be a thing. And so what's interesting about this is that they really don't discuss it in this episode. But if you go to the Red Table Talk episode, I was going to show it on here, but the way that this Facebook is playing with the feedback, I'm not going to play it on here. But go to the Red Table Talk where it's called Our Unique Union Part 2. So remember that Will Smith came to the Red Table Talk. The first episode was Becoming Mr. and Mrs. Smith, say Part 1, and then the next one will say Our Unique Union Part 2. So in that, he talks about the trials and tribulations of their particular marriage. They don't mention the infidelity in that one, but they discussed the point where they had separated. And so when Will Smith separated from the how should I say, he didn't separate from the marriage itself. He just separated from Jada. And the instructions was that, because this is where they discovered that, I'm not going to try to make you happy. And we'll play that video because that's on YouTube, so it should play better. But where he has the conversation 2 years ago where he's talking about that he told Jada that, I'm retired from trying to make you happy, and they come to the point where it's like, you find for yourself, what makes you happy. And then I'm going to, find for myself what makes me happy. And then we're going to come together as happy people and continue this marriage. So from the onset, the separation was never intended on the part of Will that they were going to get a divorce or that you can see other people. Matter of fact, when you listen to or watch the other Red Table Talk episode, you can see that Will Smith says that when this happened and they agreed on the separation and the distancing from each other, that Will Smith, they took 2 years off ultimately from each other. But within that 2 years, Will Smith was like, you know, I went and read like 50 books on relationships, on how to be a better man, how to be a better husband, et cetera, et cetera. When they separated, his thing is, I'm going to work on me. I'm going to see what it is that I can do. How can I be a better husband to her? She took it as, well, this is my opportunity to go, you know, explore and sleep with other people. And this is the way that she's going to find out what makes her happy. And this is where the disconnect comes in. And so she didn't understand the plan. She had her own thing in mind. And so this is going to come to head later on in the conversation when she says that, you know, she doesn't see what she did as a transgression. And, you know, we'll get to that a little later. So when Will talks about, you know, it's a transgression, she's like, well, this isn't a transgression. It is a transgression because, one, you're still married, and two, that was not the objective for, you know, us to separate so we can go sleep with another. You know, Will goes into deep self-reflection and is, you know, reading all these texts and speaking to gurus and whatnot, trying to be a better person for her and the family. But she decides to basically destroy the family. And this is, you know, very problematic in this regards. So I'll continue.
The point in time, it was indefinite.
Yeah, I really felt like we could be over.
Yeah, no, we were over.
I don't know why this is.
And then what did you do, Jada?
What?
What she said here, he said, you know, I had this feeling that we could be over. Remember what I just said? Like that statement is not going to make sense unless you watch that other Red Table Talk. But he clearly says here that I had, you know, basically the inkling that this could be over. Like this could be the finale of us. But she turns around and says, oh, it was over. So in her eyes, it was done, even though they're still married, no divorce papers filed, nothing to that nature. You know, there's no talk of leaving one another. So she convinced herself, well, the marriage is done. And so, you know, I'm going to step out of it. And then that's why she says she doesn't see it as a transgression. And so this is problematic on many different levels, because she doesn't even believe she did anything wrong, not in terms of her communication and her relationship with Will, or her relationship with August Alsina. And so now we're going to, you know, get into the famous, you know, wordplay that, you know, and avoidance that she tries to do in this moment.
You know, I think from there, you know, as time went on, I got into a different kind of entanglement with August. One thing I want to get clear about and clean up, one of the things that was kind of swirling in the press about you giving permission, which is, you know, the only person that can give permission in that particular circumstance. Is myself.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. But what?
I'm gonna pause it right here because this is another example of, you know, her trying to deflect, but it also answers something for us and shows that even August Alsina is not being wholly truthful in this situation as well. And so she makes it clear here in so many words that they did not get permission from Will to have their relationship, because she's going to say in a little bit that I can see how he came to that conclusion. The only reason why you would say something like I could see that he came to this conclusion is the fact that that how he said it in terms of August, in terms of the Will Smith gave him his blessing, is not what happened. And so, and this is why she has to kind of double back and be like, make it seem like a power move on her end. The only person who can give permission for something like that is me. And so again, here Will is not privy at this time to this particular type of relationship. It is her who's being manipulative here, and she's telling you here that no, Will did not give permission to August, or not, and they're using permission, but the words that August used was blessings. That he did not give the blessings to August for their infidelity here. And so you'll see that she'll try to escape all kind of accountability all throughout this conversation. So we'll continue.
August was probably trying to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Because I could actually see how he would perceive it as permission, because we were separated amicably.
Yeah.
And I think he also wanted to make it clear that he's not a homewrecker.
And you can see her basically defending him. So this is problematic as well. You sit across the table from your husband, and you're trying to defend your mistress. I don't even know what you would call, I know we say the side, NIGGA, often, but I'm gonna call August in this situation the mistress. That's a word I'm gonna make up on the spot here. And so I'm seeing in the chat, they mad because this ish went public. Of course you would be mad. They tried to keep this on the hush, but of course because old dude is in his feelings, he decided he want to be a home wrecker. And so this is why it's problematic on my part, why she's trying to defend him and try to make it seem like he's not a home wrecker. He is. This is a dude who's a grown ass man. So this wasn't no kid. He was no teenager. He was no little boy. He was a grown ass man. And sure, he had been going through some things, but that's anybody in the hood. We all come into, if you in the hood, you come, into adulthood with some issues. And so the fact that he was 23 at the time and does not excuse, to make it seem like he just did not have all his faculties in place here. And so, he was conscious of what he was doing. He could have been like, no, I respect Will, in y'all marriage, that I'm not going to do this. He knows right from wrong. And so, he is a home wrecker and she is a home wrecker. And because, she kind of led him on to thinking that they were going to have a relationship with each other, he got in his feelings. And so he did this to get back at her. He already wrote a song about her in their situation. And so I don't know why I keep getting all these damn tags. So turn off these notifications. Bam. Okay. So he is clearly a home record, if you want to say that, and if these roles were reversed, and Will had been out there cheating, and everybody keeps trying to say, well, Will ain't innocent. You have no evidence whatsoever. All the evidence points that this dude was faithful to her. Everything that he does, he does for his family, and he's trying to make. And so, that's a conversation. Like we can go through the timeline, and we can see from her admitting this stuff. Like Will Smith is an upstanding dude. For the most part, he's not perfect. He gets angry. He drinks at points and things of this nature. But going out there and having affairs, he's never been accused of that, and he's never. There's no one who's ever come out and said that they've had an affair with him. And so this is one of those things you just got to be kind of careful with, because people just like to make up stuff on the internet, and people just roll with it and don't do their due diligence whatsoever. And so, she's the one with the history of infidelity and lying in a relationship. She already had a show about this. And so, this idea that that Will is not innocent, his not innocence has nothing to do with infidelity. His not innocence has to deal with him, trying to paint this picture perfect family. But we can see that there's a reason for that. And it didn't make sense to me until I really started going back over the old videos, and especially that video on addictions August Alsine, the mother, Jada, and Will Smith's sister. Will Smith's sister. Now, if you've paid attention to Will Smith's commentary before, he would say that his dad would often beat his mother. And so the sister also informs us that the Smith's dad and mother were both heavy drinkers. They were both alcoholics. And not only that they had uncles and cousins who were all on drugs and then cracking different things. So they grew up in a home with substance abuse issues. So when Will Smith grows up and is able to make a life based on his talents, you hear in an earlier conversation with him where he says that he's always wanted to be in a relationship and be married and have a nice family since he was young. Well, of course, that'll be the situation, because he seen and grew up in the household with substance abuse. So he didn't want, when he grew up, for his family to be like the family that he grew up in. And while it had its good aspects, these other aspects, the alcoholism and the violence and the yelling and stuff, put a scar, on him. And I believe him. He's from West Philly. I live in West Philly. And, you hear about this stuff all the time in West Philly in terms of these types of relationships, which is one of the reasons why I published the book, because I would look outside of my window and see people, couples and married couples arguing and fighting and threatening to shoot each other and things of that nature. And I'm like, what the hell is going on with Black folks in West Philly? And so this is almost the culture there. And so I understand exactly why a young Will Smith would want to grow up and have in his mind already what kind of family that he wanted, and to what extremes that he would go to have that type of family. Like to this day, I have never drunken alcohol. That's because my father used to drink, and he would be violent when he drunk. And so to this day, I can be on a boat and be paddling in a sea full of Bacardi, or Patron, and will never dip my hand in it to taste it. I just have a disdain for alcohol. But that is because of how I was the experiences that I had at a young age. So I understand Will Smith completely. And so by him having this particular type of vision for his family, you have Jada trying to play a role in a character that Will Smith has created in his head in terms of what the wife should be and how they should interact. And this caused conflict because that added on to her own demons, her own character flaws and issues. And so that's when everything came to a head and they had to split. And so we got to keep this in context. So what I want people to kind of understand from this conversation is that, again, the situations, how you structure your home, how you deal with each other, it's your personal relationships that affect your long-term relationships and ultimately affects our economy and things of this nature. And so there's a line that is that we have to look at. We have to look at the complete picture. We have to look at things in context. And so, this couple, even though they are millionaires, they're new millionaires. So their parents weren't rich. So these are both people who grew up poor, or somewhat, at the bottom middle class, in the case of Will, but in the hood. Who have hood, Jada Pinkett-Smith used to sell drugs back in the day, being in Baltimore and things. Her father died of substance abuse, and her mother has substance abuse issues. She has trust issues. And we'll see a little later on how that plays out. And so if she's coming into a relationship already with trust issues and don't believe anybody got her back, and she has all these other types of addictions, this stuff is going to come to a head. So, she's out here trying to heal folks, and she herself has not gone through, any of the necessary steps to heal herself before she can come out there and try to fix others. And so this is problematic, and I hope that this comes through in terms of the conversation. Oh, here we go.
Which he's not.
I think so. I mean,
come on. I may just stop this and just kind of give my commentary.
This is your red table, and you brought yourself to the red table. I think you need to say clearly what happened.
As far as what?
You and I decided we were going to take our space, and what happened.
Yeah, and then I got into an entanglement with August. That's what I said.
An entanglement?
Yes.
Yeah, this is becoming problematic for me.
Yes.
A relationship.
Yes, it was a relationship.
Well, I'm gonna see if I can find another copy of this. I'm gonna stop sharing for the moment. And even if I can find an audio, that would be better, because it's for some reason when streaming, even when I do my shows, I never have Facebook up at the same time, because Facebook has so many apps on it that it puts a strain on the resources. So let me see if I can find real quick someone putting up the Red Table Talk on YouTube. And see if we can do that. But the part that we got to was the famous entanglement, with August. That all the memes have been made, and there was even a song remix to made out of that quote. In terms of the entanglement with August. And, everyone, rightfully so, has called on the BS of that particular statement. Because, again, throughout the conversation, she never takes responsibility for anything, and she tries to downplay it. So by saying an entanglement, it makes it seem as if this was something that they kind of fell into. Like, this was a clearly like a sexual relationship. Like she just walked in the house one day and then tripped over naked and then fell on top of August, and they were in an entanglement. That's not how it happens. It was conscious. And so she doesn't want to admit that it was a conscious thing. And this is what has become very disturbing for a lot of folks, rightfully so, because again, she can never she can never take responsibility for any of her actions. She never even apologizes to Will publicly. Now, that's not to say that she doesn't apologize to him in private, when everything was going on. But in this, if you're going to come on your program and quote unquote spill the beans, and because you have embarrassed yourself and your family, it's not just Will that she's embarrassed. She's embarrassed her mom. She embarrassed her children, and just her family and the larger family in general. So she didn't care at all about any of them. And so, with her not taking responsibility for her actions and her not even apologizing, it's going to be very difficult in the long term, even no matter what they're saying publicly, for them to actually move on and it be healthy, for them to be in a healthy relationship. Let me see. Jada and Will, Red Table Talk. Let me see if it comes up. See, I don't think it's gonna. I think they probably would have snatched it off of YouTube, because you'll find everybody else's commentary and things of that nature, but not necessarily a full, just straight episode. And nope, I'm not finding one. But I think, I did find one. So let's see if this is better.
This red table for me.
Let me go here.
Are separated amicably.
Yeah.
And
you need to say clearly what happened. Red table, and you brought your.
Okay, so let's do this. This should be better. So the show flows more fluidly at this moment. So we'll do boom. And so let me double check to make sure that everybody can see. With my orange Dilla shirt on today. So I hope y'all are doing well. There we go. And let me see. Okay, there we go. So here we go.
Yourself to the red table. I think you need to say clearly what happened.
as far as what?
You and I decided we were going to take our space, and what happened?
Yeah, and then I got into an entanglement with August. That's what I said.
An entanglement?
Yes. Yes.
A relationship?
Yes, it was a relationship. Absolutely.
So every time I hear this point, for some reason, I can't not get the song out of my head that whoever made that up, then who takes funny bits from real life and makes songs out of them. He's been real consistent with that. But you can see here that she's trying to, again, diminish the situation and trying to deflect by using flowery language and saying, you know, this was a quote unquote entanglement. The word itself is not necessarily wrong in this situation, but she can never use a direct language that says, you know, I was in an intimate relationship with this young man. And so she can't even get herself to say it, you know, in front of him. So that's why Will had to kind of pull her back and say, no, don't give us that, you know, that normal Jada Pinkett-Smith flowery language, like trying to be deep. And, you know, this is one of the things that, you know, I've noticed just about her on the show. Like she tries extra hard to be deep sometimes, all the time. And, you know, Will called her out on this, which was a good thing. So I'll continue here.
Absolutely. I was in a lot of pain and I was very broken. Now, in the process of that.
So she, you know, because she was in a lot of pain and she was broken, this is the reason why she dealt with this young man, according to her logic. So again, no responsibility, just trying to make it seem that, well, you know, it was uncontrolled, you know, because the situation that we were going through, this is what led me to yada, yada, yada.
That relationship, I definitely realized that you can't find happiness outside of yourself. Mm-hmm. And luckily enough, you and I were also going through a process of healing in a much different manner. Mm-hmm. I would definitely say we did everything that we could to get away from each other, only to realize that wasn't possible.
So we come to the red table. So I'm in the Jada position right now. So, okay. You know, you during that time launched into an interaction with August. What do you feel like you were looking for?
I just wanted to feel good. Mm-hmm. It had been so long since I felt good. Mm-hmm. And it was.
See, this is, I mean, everything is problematic. So you're going to hear me say problematic 1,000 times throughout this conversation. But this is very problematic. So remember what I said earlier, that when they split, the idea was for them to kind of work on themselves and to find out necessarily what makes them happy, and to better themselves and to come together. So she already automatically knew that they were going to come together and work on this marriage. So, you know, I don't know if that was ever communicated to August and he just ignored it and had his own kind of thing going on in his head or whatnot. But, you know, again, he caught feelings, and, you know, we're in the situation that we're in, you know, saying because of that. But she talks about, you know, that she just needed to feel good. So here we are. Will is working on himself and you know, reading all these books on how to be a better man and a better husband. So when, you know, the expectation is that I'm going to come back to Jada as an improved man, but she wasn't trying to improve herself at all. All she wanted to do was, quote unquote, feel good. And so because she has a sex addiction, the way that she feels good is through sex. And so, you know, it's troubling on many different occasions. Yeah, it's been so long, in the way that she even said long and closed the eyes, you know, when she said it. So obviously, you know, they weren't having intimate relations at this time in terms of Jada and Will. So she was using old dude for a physical fix, and it would make sense regardless. And so when you I don't know, you know, what was going through the young man's head, that a woman in her 40s who is, you know, if she was a young mother, she could literally be your mother. There's a 20-year difference, I think, between them two. And that this woman who is married, and not just married in the ordinary sense, married to one of the most successful men in Hollywood. Matter of fact, let me put this into perspective. Hopefully it will show up. So, you know, this is the house. I don't know if y'all can see that on the screen. This is Will's in Jada's home. So do you see the basketball court right next to the tennis court, and you see this little building, at the top? This is where the red table talk, saying happens. But people forget that there's a whole nother aspect of the mansion, saying back here with the pool, and look how much the greenery is, et cetera, et cetera. Jada Pinkett-Smith is not going to leave Will Smith for an up-and-coming R&B singer. She wanted him strictly for a physical interaction. That's all he is there for. And so he thought it was going to be more than that. And so what is a woman who has children that are basically adults now, legally by all definitions? She has adult children, who has been in the business for so long, has her own money, and has accomplished so much. On what level did you think, other than trauma, that you could even relate to this woman? And so he was in a delusional state himself if he thought that she was going to, and she already knew, and this is what I want to stress, she already knew from the beginning that they were going to be working on their marriage. The separation wasn't to decide if they were going to get a divorce. This woman has everything. She's not going to leave that for someone like August. And so, there's delusions going around here. But let's continue the conversation.
It was really a joy to just help heal somebody.
Yeah.
I think that has a lot to do with my codependency, which is another thing.
And this is another thing that's problematic. How do you consider, like, what was your logic in equating you having a sexual affair with someone with, you needing to heal somebody? Like, this is the crazy, woman logic at this, the over rationalization of the situation. And you can tell, like, Will Smith, if you look at his face at this moment, he's saying in his head, this is some bullshit. Like, B, quit lying. Like, he's not having it. A brother can listen to this and know it is BS. And so she's trying to over rationalize her involvement in this while not taking any responsibility and saying that, she consciously got involved. This was just some crazy accident. I don't know how this happened. Excuses all day. Let's continue.
That I had to learn to break in the cycle, just that idea of needing to fix and being drawn to people that need help, whether it's your health or whether it's your addictions.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about that childhood trauma that feels as though it can be fixed through fixing people versus fixing me.
Yeah.
And I think that whole process with Og really showed me that and taught me that.
Again, the whole process, the whole situation, never does she use the word affair. Her entanglement, everything to get around taking, using words of confidence and responsibility. Now I agree with her on the codependency thing. And she kind of explains this through a series of videos, with her. And this is also problematic. This was a problem in their relationship in terms of, you have grown kids now who don't need you. You have it's not that they don't need you. They don't need you as much. And you have this highly successful husband, who is just a joy to everybody else in the world, who's very, powerful and independent, who don't necessarily, it appears that he don't necessarily need her. And she, at this time, one of the reasons why they broke up, again, is her living in the shadows of Will Smith and not being able to necessarily fulfill her dreams. And so, any woman who has, dreams and desires, and then, all of a suddenly a marriage and children doesn't necessarily stop, but it slows down those plans. They feel a type of way, which is why a lot of women are vouching not to have children until later in their 30s, after they've quote unquote accomplished everything that they need to accomplish, they feel they need to accomplish, and travel and stuff, because in their minds having a husband and having children will possibly prevent them from living out their lifelong dreams. And so this is an issue, saying with a lot of women around the world. And so we got to keep that in context. But this is something that, she stated. And matter of fact, if you recall the Red Table Talk, where she had the wife of Stephon Curry, I forgot her name, but when she made that comment about, how all the women, kind of flock to her husband, and, he's the one always in the news, because he's with this championship team. And this is another brother who just adores and loves his wife and is about his family and stuff to this nature. And she feels some kind of way because nobody gives her attention in the way that all the women still give her husband attention. And so, in that conversation, she's on the Red Table at that time. Jada is confessing that she feels the same way, or had felt the same way dealing with Will. So prior to the actual creation of the Red Table Talk, she didn't have really anything on her own. Everything was centered around Will and the kids and things of this nature. She wasn't known for anything in terms of her own projects. Of course, she's been in a few films, but of course those aren't her own projects. She didn't have anything that she controlled and that she can express herself. So if she's in a situation in a marriage where she's not able to fully express herself, and then no one seems to, their need for her dwindles, as time goes on, because now the kids are getting older and they're independent, and then you already have an independent, saying husband or whatnot, then she feels some kind of way. So that's why when she talks about, it just felt good to heal and help somebody to feel needed. So she used, August to feel good about herself and being needed again, because he was going through some situations and saw her as a safe refuge, a safe house, a safe place of refuge or whatnot, and the whole Smith family. But she took it overboard by having that sexual relationship. And so, there's no, again, accountability. And again, she's trying to be a healer and try to be this guru, but she hasn't trained for this. She thinks that her personal life experiences has trained her enough that she can go out and try to help others in this capacity. This is why, you have to get licenses to be a therapist, because you're messing with people's heads. This is why you just can't listen to anyone because they have some ideas in their head because it sounds good. The conscious community is good for that. Dudes just make up some stuff and think they know something about medicine, is recommending herbs and saying this is good for this and all of this other kind of stuff with no accountability. So she's a person who hasn't studied anything and has no accountability in terms of her advice or anything. And she's trying to help someone with substance abuse. Like, he should have went and gone to a professional. You don't invite that kind of person in your home. And so this is problematic on many different levels. So the lesson for us is that when you're feeling, some kind of way and are in need and help, of course, your friends and family, you can voice, you should be able to go to them to be able to express yourself. But ultimately, you're going to need to go to people who do this for a living, who have the bigger picture in mind, who aren't attached to you, but more importantly, who have clear boundaries. And this is the ultimate lesson here in terms of boundaries. Well, let's continue.
And I'm really grateful for that lesson.
I feel like that husband, like I'm with you at the press conference. I'm that husband. Now I got to be with you at the press conference while you like tell the world about your transgressions.
Well,
Like I love my baby. I'm gonna stand by my baby no matter what.
well, I definitely understand why it would look that way or feel that way, but I actually don't look at it as a transgression at all through that particular.
You heard what she said. So he says that because normally in a situation like this, it is more men who are, I should say, caught, more successful men who are caught and have to work out in terms of caught with infidelity, and their wives, if they decide to stay, have to be up there at the press conference and be in support of their man. So now in this situation, in a kind of a rare situation in terms of public, not in terms of real life, but in terms of public, you see this reverse. So now he's the husband, he's the quote unquote wife in this situation, at the press conference. And this is actually what this is. This is a press conference. This is a PR. What's the that show? With Olivia Pope, one of those type of situations. They're trying to get out in front of the narrative. So, but in that, when he says, I'm here supporting the wife about her transgressions, and she says, well, I don't see this as a transgression. Again, they separated amicably so they can work on themselves, so they can work on the relationship. There was always the intent for them to come back together and work on their relationship. And so while Will was off bettering himself as a man, this is especially when you start. Will Smith has always been an individual who was well read and very philosophic and a deep thinker. But you'll notice, like starting from 2017 on to the present, he's just had a more active presence in social media in terms of advice and these deep and rich perspectives, because in that 2 years that they were separated, he was in deep study and reflection, trying to improve on themselves. But she didn't go that route. And so she has yet to mature in this situation. And we can tell because of her answers just like this. I don't see this as a transgression. You were married and you got involved with somebody who you alleged was about to help, who's around the age of your children, who was accepted in your home. So this was a whole nother level of betrayal when you invite people to your home and you accept them as family, and then they F you over like this. So this idea that she doesn't see this as a transgression is, you can look at his face right now, like he wants to slap her, and I don't blame him. Like that's some BS, and she knows it.
Particular journey, I learned so much about myself and was able to really confront a lot of emotional immaturity, emotional insecurity, and I was really able to do some really deep healing. And as I came through and started to,
she's talking about I was able to do some really deep healing with all the sexual interaction that she had with the young man. And so I'm wondering if she was playing Marvin Gaye's Sexual Healing every night as a way to justify her actions. We'll continue.
To realize certain things about you and I. He decided to break all communication with me,
right,
which was totally understandable.
See, here's evidence of the predatory nature of what she's talking about here. So again, she consciously and willingly used this brother so that she can feel good, to get her rocks off, and possibly even just as revenge to get at Will. We can't leave that off the table in terms of a possibility. But according to her, he broke it off with her, and understandably so, because she made it known that she and her husband are working it out and basically are going to get back together. So, he's thinking that, they're going to separate, and he's going to have a chance to be with this woman, and they live happily ever after, and can write nice R&B songs, and be in their own entanglement. And then she throws a monkey wrench in the plans and was like, no, I'm going to stay with my husband in this big ass house, with the basketball court and the tennis court and the big pool, and just a whole nother house on side of the house with all the brushes and all of the work that we put into our children and our family and our inheritance and all of that good stuff. That's what ultimately she is said to him. So he's like, I'm cutting off all communication. And that's when, he got deeper into his feelings, start making songs about her, and then ultimately comes out, on Angela Yee's show and spills all the beans about their relationship, or whatnot.
Right.
And I let that be, and hadn't talked to him since.
No.
So it is a little weird that all this stuff is coming out now, since this was
because for me this was years ago, right? So the fact that it's coming up now, and I think it could feel weird for people that we're laughing and talking about it, but
it happened so long ago,
and that so long ago is kind of BS, because I don't know if y'all caught what she said prior, that after that dismissal by August, that they hadn't spoken, but he was on the Red Table Talk in 2018. And so even though it's technically 2020, it's not the whole 2020. It hasn't really been 2 years. We may be approaching, saying 2 years, but they really didn't start doing, a lot of this stuff until, kind of mid, 2018 or so, in terms of Will and her, getting to a place where they were good enough that they can work on their relationship. And so with him being on the Red Table Talk in 2018, and then it was in 2019 that the rumors and stuff was starting, and he's writing the songs and stuff, they were still communicating. So, again, Jada Pinkett-Smith has lied on numerous occasions, and to us, and we know to Will. And so she's trying to make it seem like it was just that long ago. And it was not this years. It was years ago when y'all met in 2014. But that interaction, because I think he was talking about they were together for like or dealing with each other for like almost 3 years on that level. And so, she has not come clean with a lot of information. The timeline is off, and and many people have already called her out on that.
And our experiences of working through it, fighting through it, talking through it, and therapizing through it, I think that the why now is weird.
Yeah. When I say it's been a huge healing on my life, and just what I had to confront and discover, about myself, the ugly truths and the beauty. So it was something that I felt like wasn't really ready to be discussed, because it hadn't been that healing, because he hasn't wanted to, Og and I haven't talked in so long, you know what I mean? So I don't know, this all seems seem very strange, you know, but I'm grateful for the journey that you and I have had together.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there are a lot of couples that go through those periods,
Yeah.
and a lot of couples that have to separate and think it's
Yeah.
over. And,
Yeah.
you know, the one thing I'll say about you and I is that there's never been secrets.
Right. We came together young, and we were both broken in our own ways. And to be able to make mistakes without the fear of losing your family is so critical.
Yeah. It's the idea of any relationship and trying to get to deeper understanding of love is going to be forged in fire.
Yeah.
There's no way around it.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the things that I'm deeply grateful in this whole process between you and I is that we have really gotten to that new place
Yes.
of unconditional love.
I think they are still working on that, getting to that place of unconditional love. And you know, the way, again, there's no apology. I'm grateful for the experience and things of this nature. No, you know, this was my role. I'm sorry on what, you know, this relation has done to my family and things. And there's a lot of folks who believe that, you know, Will Smith is wrong for trying to project the best light of his family. Everybody does that. That's your job. You're not supposed to, first of all, regardless of what's going on in your household, everyone is not supposed to be privy to the details. You always project your best light because, you know, while y'all can work on y'all stuff internally, everybody else in the world is never going to, is not going to have your best interests at heart. So we can see already like the disrespectful memes, the songs being made about this couple. You know, 50 Cent coming on Twitter and talking about August, you know, having a conversation with Will on Twitter, talking about August blowing his wife's back out and stuff like this. This is why you don't, you know, have, because you don't, you always want to bring the best light of your family out, because the world don't understand the context and the dynamics of your family, and will try their best to make themselves feel good by tearing your family down. And so we got to be cognizant of this. And so, you know, your family is representative of your kingdom. It's no different than any country in the world. We always want to project the our country and our families in the best light, even if they're not perfect. And they've never come across as that. They've never said that their family is perfect. They always, since you can go back to the early, when Jada and Willow was babies, and in those early conversations, they keep talking about their growth and the challenges that they have, and that they're not perfect. And so it's amazing that a lot of people on social media try to make it seem that they try to project themselves as the perfect family. They've never done that. But they Will especially has always tried to project his family in the best light, because he knows the business and knows what it is, you know, saying, to grow up young and famous, and how everybody is scrutinizing, you know, everything that you do. But Jada, you know, not really, she understands it, but she doesn't it's clear that she doesn't understand this, because, you know, she with her red table talks, again, with no, like, it would be different if you had Jada there and then you had a professional as a co-host on the red table talk, like an actual psychiatrist, you know, therapist or whatnot, who can bring a professional perspective to the conversation. But she's trying to project herself as this healer and guru, when just her whole life is in turmoil. And it's not surprising, because I used to date a psychiatrist, and, you know, she'll get mad at me for saying this, but she was crazy. But she would admit it. And so I'm only saying this because she would admit it. And she would tell me that most psychiatrists are crazy. And that psychiatrists have to see psychiatrists so they can keep themselves balanced. Because then, you're dealing with your own traumas, and then you have to deal with everybody else's traumas. And so some of that stuff you take home and whatnot. But it's even with that said, they still at least have some training that allows for them to kind of look at things as objectively as possible in trying to help and heal people on the couches or whatnot. And that's just not what is done on the red table. And so to what degree people will value the show after this situation has yet to be seen. But let's continue.
Because I wasn't sure I was ever going to speak to you again.
I know.
Yeah, like the fact that I'm speaking to you again is a miracle.
I would agree.
No, but it ain't for the weak at heart. There's just certain things that you have to go through, and it's like.
And I wish, I wish that wasn't the case. I do. I wish that wasn't the case.
I sure wish it could be all magic and miracle.
Yeah. You got to go through some to get the answers, and I'm just happy because I definitely believe that you and we never, ever, ever thought that we would make it back.
Yeah. There's a real power in the just knowing somebody's riding with you no matter what.
Yeah. And
you really can't know that
until you go
through some stuff, I don't want to go through this no more.
Yeah, no, I don't either.
Yeah. I'm going to get you back first, and then...
You're going to get me back. I think you got me back. I think we're good on that, okay?
Okay, that's probably true.
But... And I don't think it's about getting anybody back.
No, for me it is.
Okay. I'll get...
Now, she's laughing, but for a fact that Will Smith is dead serious in terms of getting back. And, from an African perspective, if we're talking about, Ma'at, he's well within his rights. Again, you never hear Jada talking about Will cheating. And so the infidelity has never been on Will's side. And so, again, you're going to have people that just assume because Will Smith is a man, first of all, wealthy, and that he travels and stuff a lot, that he's automatically cheating. And so they have no evidence, of this whatsoever, but they automatically assume and put that on him because they just can't believe that there's dudes out there who really just love their wives and family and won't step out on the relationship. And but again, she's already admitted herself not only being a sex addict, but cheating in relationships, being cheated on and cheating. So she already has a history that she's already admitted to. And so we got to keep this in mind as well. But yeah, Will Smith, he may cheat, he's just waiting on. And see, this is the thing. So, Jada Pinkett-Smith, and this is something that people just really don't want to hear. And, in terms of the market value of man and woman over time, the market value of women diminishes as they get older, not necessarily with men who have power and prestige. Will Smith right now, if they divorce, there will be 1 million+ women trying to get with Will and comfort her and comfort him and nurture him back to health and all this other kind of stuff, that would love to be in the place where she currently is. And I don't think that's the same for Jada. I'm not saying that she wouldn't find anyone, that she wouldn't, like there wouldn't be some dudes. Obviously, there'll be a lot of dudes wanting to sleep with her because they know that she would be probably willing to do something like that. But in terms of, a relationship and marriage and all of that, and and all that Will Smith's stock. Matter of fact, I think this situation has made Will Smith's stock rise just that much more. And she probably, looked at her prospects, if she was to get divorced and was like, no, I'm not going to do better than Will at this point. Let me try to work this out, And of course, it could be more to it. I could be speculating, but that's just my sense of it all at the moment. But let's continue.
Give you that petty. That's what you want. But I will definitely say it's just part of it.
Yeah.
If you expect to be with somebody for a lifetime,
25 years and counting.
We ride together.
We die together.
Bad marriage for life.
I know there were some people out there who had a problem with that. I take it for what it is on the surface. It's just, it seems, odd, but given the context, it's just a funny moment where they're making a play on a movie, of course, in which he was in terms of Bad Boys. But so, I don't dwell on that. Their intent, obviously, is not to have a bad marriage for life, which is why they got together in the first place and went through all that trauma at least Will trying to better himself. I don't know what the heck Jada was doing, but let's continue.
That's terrible.
It's the truth.
It's the truth.
But yeah, it's just part of the journey.
I told you the first year we were married.
What'd you tell me?
That I can love you through anything.
And I didn't believe you.
Yeah.
If somebody looked through a crystal ball and said this, and this is gonna happen, I'd be like, no way.
Yeah.
So he said that at the beginning of their relationship that he already knew. See, this is what this is what I think is underlying all of this. Will Smith knew who he was and what he wanted to do in life and what his mission in life was at a very early age. She is still in her 40s trying to figure out who she is. And so it comes across as a kind of arrogance and thing when you come across someone who just knows why they're here and they're able to activate that which is inside of them to accomplish their missions in life, versus being with someone who has no idea ultimately of what they came here to do and trying to figure out themselves, even at such a late age. But he tells her that he was sure of this from the beginning, that I am somebody that you can count on, and I will always be there for you no matter what. And she, of course, because of her childhood trauma and her insecurities and not having stable relationships in her life, she comes in like, I don't believe you. This tells you something here, that she doesn't even enter the relationship believing, even to the point of marriage, which she never really wanted in the beginning. And she says in one of her Red Table Talks that she's not marriage material, that she knows this. So this is after they didn't came together. So she admits that she's not marriage material. And so you have a woman who's in a marriage who admits that she's not marriage material, trying to work out a marriage. So these kind of things, I expect this to happen on her end, because she doesn't believe, like, she's been in the marriage for so long not believing that what they have, who he is real. She's just always waiting for him to drop the ball because that's her expectations. And that's sad on so many levels. And I've come across that in my personal relationships and just people who I know. Like, they can't fully give themselves to the relationship because in the back of their mind, they're just waiting for the other person to mess up and do something wrong. And they can be like, see, I knew this wasn't going to work out. And that's what she's admitting to and has admitted to more fully in other conversations. So you really, this 12-minute and 53-second clip, you really have to watch this in conjunction with a number of other Red Table Talks and some of the other videos in which they've done. And when you're able to put it in a linear fashion, everything begins to make sense.
Yeah. You thought I was that I didn't have the girth that it was going to take to ride with you through.
Yeah, I didn't know if you would be willing to find the deep capacity to love me.
Yeah.
See, and this shows her narcissism right here, because it had to be about his capacity to find the deep courage to love her. But she never reflects on, is she someone who is lovable? And you have people wanting love or a sense of love from other people, but they themselves cannot be recipients of love. And that causes, and that was something that was also brought up in their relationship. You not only do you have to have the capacity to love others, you have to have the capacity to receive love and be lovable. And some people are just unlovable. No matter what they do, they're never satisfied with anything. Matter of fact, it's a joke that was not a joke. It's a statement made by Robert Mugabe that is, saying very funny, but it speaks to such a situation. And so, here's the meme I have on the screen. So I don't know how well y'all can see it because I can't really blow it up or anything, but he says, you cannot give a woman everything she needs. If God himself gave them eyebrows, they shave it and they draw their own. God gave them nails, they cut it off and they fix their own. God gave them hair, they cut it off and fix their own. He gave them breasts, they repackage it to what they want. God still gave them buttocks, but they arrange it to the size they want. If even God can't satisfy them, meaning women, then who are you to think that you can please them? My brother, don't kill yourself. So this is coming from a dang revolutionary. He's an old revolutionary, but he says something, that even Will and Jada had to come to the conclusion themselves. So I'm gonna play a video clip. Let me find the link real quick. That reinforces exactly what he was saying. Hopefully I saved it. Okay. It's on Facebook, so I don't know if it's, matter of fact, I'm gonna find I know it's on YouTube somewhere. It's just not as clear a copy, but I don't want to play Facebook links again. So hold on one sec. And I hope thank y'all for still rocking with me here in my rantings and ravings. Will Smith retired from making Jada happy. And so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop sharing that screen and then share the other screen and play it.
About love. And I asked her, I said, what did she think was, one of the biggest revelations that she had about love? She said that you cannot make a person happy. And I thought that was a real deep idea.
Okay, what is going on here?
Yeah. You can make a person smile, you can make a person feel good, you can make a person laugh, but whether or not a person is happy is deeply and totally and utterly out of your control. I remember the day I retired. I literally said to Jada, that's it. I retire. I retire from trying to make you happy. I need you to go make yourself happy and just prove to me that it's even possible. And after we cracked the hell up, we started talking about, we came into this false romantic concept that somehow when we got married that we would become one. And what we realized is that we were two completely separate people on two completely separate individual journeys. And that we were choosing to walk our separate journeys together. But her happiness was her responsibility, and my happiness was my responsibility. And we decided that we were going to find our individual, internal, private, separate joy. And then we were going to present ourselves to the relationship and to each other already happy, not coming to each other begging with our empty cups out, demanding that she fill my cup and demanding that she meet my needs. It's unfair and it's kind of unrealistic and can be destructive to place the responsibility for your happiness on anybody other than yourself.
Okay. So what he said was, very, I mentioned this, what he says in my book, Where is the Love? How Language Can Reorient Us Back to Love's Purpose. And so he echoes again what Robert Mugabe had echoed in a different manner, in that you can't make someone happy. And the problem that she was having was that, she was relying on Will to make her happy. And, again, without addressing the notion that is she even lovable? Is she even, does she even have the capacity to accept how a particular person expresses their love, in relationship to them? And, this is common through many relationships. And so people, be in their feelings all the time because they think that, certain they're going to find their happiness in someone else. And that's not how this works. And so if you, again, this is not the first time that he's mentioned that, because he mentioned that on the Red Table Talk. Now, keep in mind that that video and the Red Table Talk that he was on was all 2 years ago. This was in 2018. At the time when so he's telling you about the time that they split. So this is, more evidence that they were not divorcing, that they were splitting with the intent on working on themselves and coming back into the relationship. So she had something totally different in mind, which, caused all this chaos, in the first place. But there's only a few more seconds in the second video, the first video, and I'll just play that and we can, end this conversation.
How am I doing?
You're doing great.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on.
Deep capacity.
Take to ride with you through.
I didn't know if you would be willing to find the deep capacity to love me.
Yeah. How am I doing?
You're doing great.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah. You're awesome.
Now, I don't know how to interpret her saying you're doing effing great, but she's shaking her head no at the same time. I may have to reanalyze that. I tried not to get too much into the whole body language. There's a whole body language analysis that you can do with the both of them, but I wanted to kind of concentrate more so on the words. But I'll stop the video there, and I will put, if anybody wants to join the conversation. I see, I haven't been able to kind of read all the comments, but I'll put a link and probably for like 30 minutes or so, if anybody wants to join the conversation. And let me see, to join conversation. Am I even spelling conversation right? No, I'm not. Conversation. Here is the link. Boom. So I put it in the chat room. Unfortunately, for those who are on Facebook, you would have to be on the YouTube channel to get the link. But I put the link inside of the chat. So if you want to, add your 2 cents, this will be a good opportunity. But, I just wanted to end and say that regardless to how much of humanness is involved in this relationship, they have decided, saying to work it out and stick together. And that's really kind of one of the bigger lessons in this. And so, one of the things they talk about is, that the strength of the relationship is going to be forged in the fire. And as I talk about in the text, that, when it comes to love, so to speak, that love is really, what develops on the other side of a shared triumph over adversity. And people think that, that love is some kind of feeling. Love is something that you do in order to accomplish some particular type of goal and to maintain health in a person that you care about and things. And they kind of reinforce it. So people will look at this as kind of a dysfunction, but I don't see it necessarily. Well, I see it as a dysfunction, but one that is surmountable, that that it could be it can be dealt with, and they're dealing with it, in the best way that they can. I wish they had an Afrocentric analysis, but that's not the case, because they do have a therapist. They have been going to counseling, marriage counseling. They have a marriage therapist. So, one of the ways, of course, they're using professionals to help them in their marriage. So, regardless of what we may think on the outside, of course, we don't have the whole story. So there's no way that, we can be experts on their language, on their relationship. But at the same time, they have given us enough. They have sacrificed their lives to give us some kind of insight into the human condition. And so this is why a conversation like this is necessary, and especially done in the right light and love. And that's something that I hoped that I brought here today. But I want to kind of put this in the broader context. And just like I stated at the beginning, we got to look at this in the long run. If we don't get our interpersonal relationships right, then our economy will not be right. And this is something that we have to consider. And Bantu Mandinka is saying it's celebrity gossip. This is not celebrity gossip. Remember, they have a whole show where they talk about these things. And the problem is that a lot of the issues that goes on in our community, we don't normalize talking about them and healing from the traumas. And so regardless of how I may currently feel about Jada and her shenanigans, she does provide a service for us. She has brought people to the forefront to talk about issues that isn't discussed a lot. We still have to talk about traumas about men and women raping people in the family, having sex with underage, children and stuff in the family, or alcoholism and stuff. This is why we got to, have these conversations, so we can kind of flush it out and see what were the historical lead ups to these particular types of situations and how they affect us, and the potential, downfall of us if we do not put these things in check. So, you know, regardless of everybody thinking, well, they're rich and these are rich people problems. These are not rich people problems. None of what they had or were dealing with had anything to do with money, you know. And so regardless of their money, their childhood issues still came to the forefront of their relationship. And what I wish, you know, would have been brought out, is clear that Jada has some kind of mental health issue that has not been addressed, that has not been diagnosed, or whatnot. And, you know, and so I didn't go too deeply into some other things that I saw. And from my experience working in mental health institutes, that is clear. But, you know, I'm not a professional, so I don't want to make any, you know, diagnoses on her, but she clearly has some mental health issues that hasn't been diagnosed, because again, her growing up, matter of fact, there's a Red Table Talk when she talks about her addictions. She never, by her own admission, she never went to any therapy. She just, quote unquote, stopped cold turkey with her addictions when she should have been going through therapy. But she grew up in the era in which I grew up, you know, in the 80s and 90s. And so, you know, mental health was not on the top, you know, priority of things that we was looking to do, you know. So, but, you know, they're going through therapy and stuff now, and this stuff has been brought to the forefront. And by her putting her problems and their family problems out on Front Street, which, you know, is problematic for a lot of us personally, it allows us to look at them and reflect, and to look at them for as models on certain things, and then certain things we should avoid in our own interpersonal relationships. So I see our good brother Robert Rand in the building. And again, if you want to join the conversation, you have any questions or just want to say something, you know, join the chat. You don't have to, you know, show your face if you don't want to, but join the conversation. So the link is in the chat. But what's up, good brother?
How you doing, good brother? What's going on, man?
Man, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. And yourself?
I'm good. I'm so glad you brought this subject matter up, man. You know, and in this type of environment where we can have a real intelligent discourse on it, you know, without all the, you know, that pseudo information and all that other fluff that goes on, you know, in the streets. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, this is so interesting on so many different levels, you know. Mm-hmm. I wrote a comment, and let me elaborate on that. And the comment is in regards to her not being happy, or him retiring because he can't make her happy. And it's almost depressing, because it's like, then what do you strive for? I mean, we want to provide for our women that house, you know, that mansion, that car, and that lifestyle where she can have anything she wants. And it's like, here it is. You have, you know, one of the top actors in Hollywood. You have an outstanding man. He's an outstanding man, you know, and if that can't make you happy, where do we stand? You know what I mean? Like, what does the average man have to strive for? You know, it's like almost like to the point where some brothers might feel like, I give up because there's nothing I can do to make a woman happy. You know, no matter what I give her, no matter what I do, no matter how much success I have, she's never going to be happy. She's always going to go to another dude, or go, you know, or go stray some way, somehow, you know. So that's, you know, that's something to take in consideration. And then you have to also consider the younger generation that's coming up. What impression does this have on them, on the next generation of women? Are they, you know, is it now okay? You know, because more times than not, it's always been on the shoe has been on the other foot, where it's always been the man that has cheated. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And the woman has to deal with that. But now, you know, is Jada, how is she going to be looked at? Yeah. You know, how is Will going to be looked at?
Yeah. Matter of fact, I mean, again, this is one of the reasons why I did the show. It's in defense of marriage. because the idea of marriage is what's at stake here. Because again, you have a lot of young, older people who've been through some stuff. We get it that no relationship is perfect and that people go through stuff. We get it, as far as getting older. But you have a lot of young people who have this in their mind that that there's these you have this phrase relationship goals, and that the Smiths are relationship goals, or that somebody else are relationship goals. And now they're looking at it as, just as you said, they're asking the question, well, if they can't make it, what hope do we have? So they're not even looking into marriages or creating families. And so in order for us to start talking about like generational wealth and things, you have to have family. So if Black Lives Matter, matter of fact, let me find this video. I think the sister does a real good job explaining this, but go ahead.
It was another interesting note. She made a statement that she's not the marrying kind, and when someone tells you that, they're telling the truth. You know what I mean? And it is interesting because it's like, she had to change she had to literally change who she was to fit his paradigm.
Yeah.
The image that he wanted in a woman. You know what I mean? So
you also have to keep in mind though that, because on that same Red Table Talk where Will was the feature when they came back for their second or third season, whatever it was, she said that she did not want to get married. Right. That, and then in the previous, she already said that she wasn't the marrying type. She wasn't marriage material. And she still does not think of herself as marriage material. But in that conversation, Will says the only reason why we got married, well, first of all, she got pregnant. And that the mother wanted the marriage. And so, the mother,
his mother or her mother?
No, her mother, the mother that's on the show. Her mother wanted the marriage. So it's kind of like this societal pressure to get them married because, of course, you did not want a child, and stuff out of wedlock and things of this nature. So they were kind of forced to get married and then try to, work this out. Now, Will, of course, always wanted to be married, and he saw her as somebody that he wanted to marry, but that wasn't her thing. But then, when you're thinking about the child in the picture, it's like, what kind of circumstance do you want to be where y'all separate and you're having visiting rights and all of this kind of stuff with the child? So that put them in a kind of a bind. So they were, wasn't forced per se, but she went along with it, but she didn't want the whole idea of a wedding, and again, the mother was the pressure for the wedding, because of course that's her only child. Right. And she's like, I want to go down the aisle with my or child or whatnot, and so we got to keep that in mind. But I want to play this video clip real quick now this is a Christian sister, but she says, oh, hold on, I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I will play some of it. So let me stop that scroll for a second and share my tab. Okay, so this is a sister. This was published in 2017. Why I Didn't Marry for Love, and I want to play this because the Smiths themselves have talked about having this kind of vision for the family. So I can get where a lot of people are talking about this kind of picture perfect family or whatnot. But the Smiths has this right. And this is, again, because a lot of what is going on with the Smith family, I've talked about in the text, and why you don't marry for love. And so you marry because you have a vision for generational wealth. You're trying to build something together, and that's exactly what Will had in mind, and Jada got on board with a little later. When and to hear that, you got to go to you got to watch the episode of Oprah Winfrey when she had the Smiths on, the whole family on, to discuss their family and things. And this was at the time when the Karate Kid movie was being promoted.
I was tagged in a post by a Facebook friend that she shared from another page, and the post came from the page of Rodell Cutno. Shout out to Ro. The post was getting a lot of traction, and I think she tagged me in it because she wanted for me to give my commentary on it. But anyway, so before I gave my commentary on the post, I read the post, of course, to make sense of it, and the post said, marriage has only two purposes. One, generational success. Two, personal growth. Love is not a good reason to marry. So that's basically what the post said. And I was reading the comments. I just kind of wanted to get a feel of the tone of the post. And people were commenting and said, oh, this post is stupid. That's the only reason why I would marry is for love. I'm reading these comments and, people were bashing the post. And although the post dealt in absolutes, and I kind of like to stay away from absolutes, I agree overall with what she was saying. And here is why. Marriage isn't a vehicle for love as much as it is a vehicle for building. Again, marriage is not a vehicle for love as much as it is a vehicle for building. What are we building? We're building foundations. We're building stability. We're building wealth. We're building legacy. We're building intimacy. We're building the community. We're building each other. That is what marriage is, is the vehicle for. It's the primary vehicle for that. So check this out. When people usually talk about marrying for love, what they're talking about usually is how they feel about that person. How that person makes them feel, right? That person gives them butterflies. Person makes them happy.
I want to stop there. So remember when Jada was talking, I just wanted to feel good. Mm-hmm. She didn't understand. Remember, she's not marriage material. She doesn't understand the role and purpose of a marriage and her role in the marriage. She's still stuck on this notion that she's supposed to. We're not saying that you're not supposed to feel good, but that you're supposed to feel good all the time, and that the other person is supposed to make you feel good and make you happy. They can aid in that happiness if it is already present in your heart. But if you're not happy with yourself, if you don't have a love for yourself, which she talked about at the end of the video, there's no way anybody else is going to be able to love you or make you happy. And so this is one of the things that I stressed in the Where is the Love book, is not to have that as the primary goal of your relationship. And especially your marriage. It has to be something deeper, and it has to be something greater. And she kind of repeats this here, but I'll keep going.
They feel great around that person. They're usually basically speaking from the chemicals that are shooting off: dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. They're speaking from that perspective. I'm not going to marry somebody unless I.
Oh, whoops. Hold on.
Love them unless I feel some type of way about them. And some of you have probably gotten to the point of this video where you're probably like, Tora, what are you talking about? Do you not love your husband? I love my husband. I love my husband, but I did not marry him because I loved him. I loved being around him. I love how he made me laugh. I loved how he made me feel. I love how he complimented me. But when I was thinking about marrying him, when I was like, all right, I think I would marry him, I wasn't thinking about us holding hands in the park. I wasn't thinking about some night coming on a horse and this romantic scenery, all this kissy stuff, just all the fun smiles and times we're going to have to get. I didn't think about that. What I was evaluating him on is his ability to build. Yes, he can make me laugh, but can he cultivate resources? Yes, he makes me feel great, But what that intelligence do? What that intelligence do? Yes, I love how he compliments me, but what about his resilience? When the going gets tough, what about lifelong learning? Okay, he has charisma, but what about his circle of influence? Who is he connected to? What type of network would I have access to if I married him? What type of access would my children have? People like to think that legacy is only wealth and money, but it's also a network, because a lot of times it's not about what you know, it's who you know. What type of network would I be connected with? Yes, we hold hands, we do all the lovey-dovey stuff. We like to be close to one another. We like to be around one another, but there are times when we don't like each other. But at the end of the day, even when we can't stand each other, we're building. We're masterminding, we're coming up with plans, even when we don't like each other. At the end of the day, we come together to build. We come together to make things happen. Even Adam in the garden.
I'll end that. Because then she started getting on some Christian stuff. But anyway, what you heard from her is, you know, this stress on this nation, this notion to build. And so, matter of fact, if I'm going to come back and I'm going to play, if I remember, if I have the link, I'll start with, yeah. So this is the Smiths on the Oprah Winfrey Show. And you're going to see some of the same things echoed here. And so if you understand this, you'll understand why August, hold on. Darn commercials, YouTube. Maybe I need to get a subscription. Let me press pause. Okay. So we're going to play this clip. And so keep in mind what the sister had said previously, and I'm going to share with you, and this will probably be my last share for the night, of the Smiths on the Oprah Winfrey Show way back in like, what was it, 2012, 2013, something like that. It was a while ago. So let me unpress mute.
Wow. Color coordinator.
I did not know. Look at you. Now this is what you want your mama to look like. Wow. The kids are going to be out a little later. But people call the Smiths the first family of Hollywood because they do everything: acting, singing, producing, on and on. Was this part of a master plan you all have?
No.
Yeah, no. I mean, yeah, Oprah. Yeah.
Well,
You know, it's pretty much how we've seen it.
Yeah, we fell into it.
but I hear that you all really do set goals, that there is a marriage business plan.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
really, you could write a book about that and help a lot of people. There's a marriage business plan.
You know what we discovered is
Look at Jada's shoes. Would somebody just take a shot at that? Hello. Okay.
No, it's crazy. I almost wore them. It would have been a mess out here.
But a marriage business plan.
You know, it's like if you don't have a goal, you know, if you don't have a purpose for your relationship and pretty much anything, it's like if you don't have a purpose, if you don't have a place that you're going, something you want to accomplish, something you want to do, you can really get lost in the murk of the journey.
There has to be a vision for.
There has to be a vision, right?
Yes, right.
So why are we together? You know, it's. I mean, you fine. You know. You know, but as an answer for why two spirits would join together and decide to travel this perilous journey of life together, fine, or you can cook, or you keep the house protected, that's really not enough. There's so much more that you have to be dedicated to.
Wow. That is so true.
together.
So
Yeah.
what is the bigger vision for your marriage? What is the bigger?
Well, we had to figure that out because we're two big beings that came together.
Yes.
And I had my vision and he had his. And so we had to join it. And so we decided.
You just do what she said.
Yeah, basically. That's the vision.
Yeah. No, but I really want to hear it.
Right.
I really want to hear it.
So once we started to see how the children were growing, and Willow and Jaden and Trey, with how they were becoming their own beings, we decided, okay, we want to make a family business. How do we incorporate all the talent that we have in this family? Right. So that's our vision, to create a place where their dreams can come true and our extended family's dreams can come true as well.
And speaking of his extended family, everybody.
So I couldn't pause that right there, but you see, you hear from them that this concept of a marriage business plan, and they just decided that they are going to create a family business. Keep in mind that Will Smith grew up with a father who owned a business, and they all worked for the family business. So he already understood and knew the importance of having that, in the family. And so when the other sister was talking about generational wealth and, what are we coming together to build and things, that should be the first and foremost, of y'all coming together and in terms of y'all relationship. And so, how it is going to be executed, will kind of come at over time. But as long as you have that mission in the forefront, then you have something greater than simply your feelings. And which is why the marriage component is important, because y'all are bounded together. If you just boyfriend and girlfriend, there's nothing that holds you together. Any kind of first sign of trouble, young couples are ready to wash their hands with each other, not understanding the kinds of commitments it would take to create and build, generational wealth and things of that nature, and just any kind of plans, and how to use the talents in the family to build that. And so that is something that we lost as a result of the transatlantic slave holocaust, in which other communities and things are doing. But African Americans, they're still trying to be independent Black women and strong, independent, I don't need, woman, I'm gonna be a player for life, type dudes. And we're not creating strong families that can create generational wealth. We want to do everything the hard way and do every single thing, by ourselves. And I hope, and so I'm saying all that to say is that they've already had that vision for themselves. I'm talking about Jada and Will Smith. And so when August comes along, he's only there because he's there to satisfy a sexual need, a personal feeling, so to speak. But he doesn't have that grand vision for him and his family. I mean, and family, she's not trying to have any more children at her age. August serves no purpose at this point other than a physical relationship. He's not on the same level in terms of vision for the generations. He's not thinking about, he would never accept Jada's kids as his own and think of their children as grandchildren of his and things of that nature. And so, we got to keep this in mind. So it is that deeper understanding, of course, which allows them to come back together in times of adversity and work on it, because they have already had a bigger plan in mind. And so these are some of the things that we gotta keep in mind for one another. So, hold on, brother. Sorry, remember, we don't need a business plan because we are at war on different levels here in America. You need a plan regardless. Some of y'all walking around talking about we at war and ain't got life insurance, for your children. And everybody's going to be selling, chicken dinners, raising funds for your burial. You know, you get life insurance plans so you can start your children and things on the right, on with a nest egg that they can do and build some other things. You have to have a plan for your family. Even if you was to leave the United States and go to Africa, you would still need a business plan for your family, because relationships ain't about how I feel and I'm all lovey-dovey in your face. Is what are you doing to better yourself as a person, because the marriage itself is an environment for self-development. And what are we coming together to build for our great grandchildren? What is your legacy going to be? And so this is something you got to think about, whether you're here in the United States or in Africa or in the Caribbean. And so we got to get our minds right when it comes to us. And so this is greater than us and how we feel. And the girl is fine, and she makes some good red beans. Now that's really kind of a requirement for me. Making some good red beans, that's the ultimate test. But that's another story. Which is neither here nor there. Let me see. Sister Alkebalon Ma says, our women bend over backwards for your men, and this is really the standard. Not saying that there are not brothers out here with issues, but what this situation highlights is that there are women with issues too. And when men try to voice their concerns and try to let the world know that these are the types of things that we deal with on a daily basis, a lot of people try to dismiss it and think that it's mansplaining and stuff of this nature. But you're starting to see, these type of issues come to the forefront, across the United States, at all age levels and things. So women over here being crazy, just like dudes are being crazy. And so, let me say, and I'm sure Will has plenty of toys, so stop harping on Jada. No, this is about Jada. This is her infidelity. This is her red table talk. This is her issue, And so we're not going to let her off. We did the same thing when it came to what's his name, Kobe Bryant. When he went off and cheated on his wife and messing with the white girl at the hotel, then got accused for rape. He got the same, conversation and issues that Jada had. It's just her turn. So, again, this just shows that people, with their cognitive dissonance, even where it's clearly the issue of Jada and her fault in the relationship, they're still trying to find a way to blame Will for something. And that's problematic. And so, both men and women have their issues, and because we live in a toxic environment amongst a toxic culture, and we're still trying to figure out our values and things of this nature, there's a lot of problems that we have to address. So we got to stop avoiding having the serious and deep conversations and controversial conversations and trying to blame all the time. We need to understand what are the social and environmental conditions that inspire and motivate our people to behave in a certain way, and then we need to put institutions and social behavior engineering or steering mechanisms in place, so that we influence the younger people to not make the mistakes that we and our ancestors and our elders have made. And so we have the opportunity, and we have the energy and the know and the wherewithal to make these kinds of changes. But as long as everybody has cognitive dissonance and they're trying to act like that, that this is something that's more, about one gender than it is another, and that one group is more innocent than another, then we might as well just give up. I'm gonna be joined Don Lemon and the rest of them, and I'm gonna try to find my white card, because there's just no hope, because we have people without a victorious consciousness always trying to make commentary and not give us hope. And so the Will and Jada, even though it is very tumultuous at this point, they give us hope. there's a possibility for solution in which they've already started to make the steps for the healing process, and that's something that we can learn from them. Hold on. Someone says, is it the same if you are married to a white girl and have an affair with a white Becky? I'm assuming if you married the white girl, you made a commitment to her, and unless y'all have an agreement that y'all can date other people, in that process, I'm assuming it's going to be the same. And so, but this is for those black folks who argue that Black Lives Matter and that they want to see black children, and black families thrive. And so if you don't want to see black families thrive and you don't intend to be in a long and committed relationship with actual black men and women, then this ain't the conversation for you. So
Yes,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Matter of fact, kudos for the show. The Philip Shock Matthews show. That was a great show, bro.
Appreciate it.
I really enjoyed that.
Indeed. Yeah, well, hopefully I'll be back on the show sometime in the near future.
I know you will, because it seemed like you taught him some things that he never heard before, And like you say, that linguistic component is much needed, man. That answers a lot of questions. That connects a lot of dots.
Speaking of, let me do this real quick before I end the show. On tomorrow, we're going to have two dynamic sisters, on the show. We're going to have Sister Rebecca and Nia Christian. And this is a mother and daughter team. So the mother's at the top, the daughter's at the bottom in terms of the pictures on the left. They are the creators of the Millennial Tech Academy. They teach coding, robotics, and what else? And AI fundamentals to children between the ages of 7 and 13. And so we're going to have a conversation with them both. That's going to be tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern time on this channel. So, if you're new to my channel, subscribe, set the reminder, find the link for those who are subscribed already, just in case, you don't get a notice from YouTube, but set the reminder. On my social media platforms, I will have, some links and advertisements, all throughout the day on tomorrow. But, this is a very good, dynamic, STEM-based family right here. And, we're going to have a real rich and meaningful conversation. So, I'll be interviewing more and more African Americans in the STEM fields, especially as October is coming, and October is Black Science Month. So, don't miss this show. These are some dynamic and powerful sisters. And that is going to be tomorrow, Thursday, July the 16th at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So
I got a question for you.
Go ahead.
What were your thoughts on Robin Walker's commentary in regards to, because I watched that interview also. That was good. That was yesterday. I actually caught it in the archive. I didn't catch it live. He made some commentary towards the end in respect to Carthage and Hannibal and
hold on, my bad. You're gonna have to repeat your whole thing. I'm sitting here wiping off my keyboard and pressed the wrong button and logged myself out. So I didn't.
Okay.
I heard Robin Walker. What do I think about Robin Walker? And then so go back.
Okay, I'll repeat it. I was listening to his commentary yesterday, and he was talking about Carthage, the ethnic identity of the Carthaginians, and he was talking about Hannibal. All these people being definitely black, and in my head I was screaming. I was like, "See, that's what we're fighting against. We're not We everybody in the ancient world wasn't black. We don't do that blackity black thing. You know what I mean? And it's like, yo, the Carthaginians were not African people. Their DNA was not African at all. We did the work on that already. He also brought up was it not Hannibal? Who else did he say? Mansa Musa. Oh, in regards to Islam and how you was trying to explain to him that, listen, it's not the fact that we're throwing away our history or certain aspects of our history. What it is that you're not acknowledging that these religions, these Abrahamic faiths, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, have done nothing but destroy our people. They have destroyed our culture, and they have never served no purpose for us at all since we adopted these things, you know. And I don't understand why they can't understand that.
Yeah, that's
I brought this up in another show.
That's another conversation, and that I'll be here all night, you know, addressing that. So I think I addressed at least that latter point, you know, on the show, and you know, the former point that you were making, I didn't hark on it, you know, saying too bad, but yeah, that's something that, you know, we may have to do just a whole show on, in terms of the Berbers and Carthaginians and, you know, Phoenicians who settled in that area, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, so we'll definitely, you know, look into that in the future. And I'm seeing some of the comments in the chat, you know, regarding the topic that we're dealing with today. And I just want to say that it's not an issue of, you know, you just marrying for finance. They understand that love is going to be a part of the process. But what people got to understand is what love is. Love is a verb, is something you do. But the joy and the sense of attachment and bond that people are talking about is the result, is the byproduct of overcoming challenges towards y'all collective goals together. And, you know, because it's that feeling that somebody got your back in the midst of troubles, that it is really solidified that love is present, because somebody is sacrificing of themselves to make sure that, you know, you and the family are healthy and straight, and that, you know, you aren't being beaten down by the world and the situations that we find ourselves in. But you know, you come together in terms of a marriage to build something. You know, marriage really has to deal with children and the coming into the world of children and building generational wealth for the family and or the village. And so, you know, we probably, again, I've written this in the text. So if you don't have, you know, where is the love, how language, you know, my intent wasn't to, you know, kind of promote the book, but I guess I have to. Where is the love, how language can reorient us back to love's purpose. You know, it's a thin read. So it's not, you know, it's not my Alluja Volume 2 book that's, you know, this big with 500 something pages. It's not that. It's a thin, you know, read. But it deals with a lot of this, and of course with text citations talking about what love and marriage is. And so too many of us have been looking at relationships from the lens of Europeans, and then looking at it through the lens of Europeans based on ideas that are recent in history. You know, like I did a whole lecture on this notion that the man is the breadwinner of the family. That stuff was invented in the late, you know, 1800s, you know, coming from the Industrial Revolution. Like there was a more holistic way to look at the roles and positions of the people in the relationships before this particular time. And so we got to kind of look at all of these things, you know, in conjunction. So and then again, of course, we have the text written by the guest that we had previously, the Edus, and that is, I'm gonna show the image again. A Coma Day, a guidebook into the sacred science of soulmating, a cultural alternative to Valentine's Day, etc. They speak on many of the things that I speak on in the book. Matter of fact, when Brother Sinjetti introduced me to them when they was in Philly one year, it was based on that we talk about the same and come to the same conclusions and or whatnot. So we got to keep that in mind. So, if you're not coming together, you don't have a vision for yourself. You have your own, personal destiny, but you have to have a destiny for you and your mate and your children. And so this is what is important. And this is the nature of the discussion. But, with that said, I just want to say thank you. It's already been, I only intended for it to be 2 hours, but, we're going into the third hour. We're in the third hour, as we speak. So I want to end it on that. But just want to say thank you. Peace and love to all of you who have listened this long and and listening to my personal rantings and perspectives on this particular situation. So I hope that you got out of this that this is not, I'm not trying to have a gossip conversation like many of the other people, but I'm trying to put this in the perspective of the health of Black families, marriage, and the building of our economy, and the importance of trust in these types of relationships, and the bigger picture of it all. So I hope those individual variables were connected in a way that makes sense. So thank you all. Thank you, Brother Robert, for joining the panel. And hopefully next time y'all won't be scared in the chat. Y'all come on and voice your opinions. But I will see y'all on tomorrow, and for the dynamic conversation with the Rebecca and Nia Christian, and we're going to have some STEM, some science talk, with our dear sisters. So with that said, y'all have a good night, and I will leave my calling information. And so y'all have a blessed night, and I will see y'all a little later. Oh, I got to find my out music. And so so while we're waiting on that, go to the hoppyfilm.com, purchase your ticket for your family. The documentary will be shown at 7 p.m. Eastern time on July the 18th, which is this Saturday. And from there, you can see me and Dr. Ricchetti and Mfudishi and Taki and a host of other folks, who were in the film. Dr. Wade Nobles, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, Professor Smalls, a whole host of individuals and very important people in that particular film. So until then, I will see y'all later. Peace.